Hello and welcome to Wisco Legacy. I'm your host, Corey Kundert. On Wisco Legacy, I talk to interesting, inspiring, and successful people from the great state of Wisconsin and hear all about their journey. You can find me on all the podcast platforms. I also have a video version of each podcast on YouTube. You can follow me along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I also have a website, wiscolegacy.com. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, I'm country recording artist and singer-songwriter Kirstie Kraus, and this is my Wisco Legacy.
Welcome to Wisco Legacy. I'm your host, Corey Kundert. On today's episode, we have Kirstie Kraus. Kirstie is a singer-songwriter based in Nashville. She's originally from Janesville, Wisconsin. Welcome to Wisco Legacy, Kirstie.
Thank you so much, Corey. It's so good to be here, especially when you're from Wisconsin. We stick together and we lift each other up. So I'm really happy to be here today.
Great, thanks. So we're going to take it from the beginning. We're going to talk about your childhood. You grew up in Janesville. You were there for a lot of your childhood. What were you like as a kid? Were you into singing? Were you into school, sports? What was that like?
Yeah, good old Janes, Vegas. So I don't know if you've heard that term or any. Every time I say that, people laugh. But Janesville, all my family was there, all my extended family, my cousins, my grandparents. So on Sundays we'd go to church and then we'd go out to eat afterwards. We pretty much had, reserved pews for our family. It was I got to go to my cousins' Babe Ruth games, things like that. We were very family oriented. But I've always been a really, really outgoing human. And from the time I could talk, I was talking a lot, I guess, holding conversations with people in the grocery store at 2 and like jumping up on picnic tables and taking requests in like a very raspy voice and then pointing and telling people to clap. So that was, I'm sure you can imagine, we knew each other in college and I was still obnoxious then. I've grown a little bit more out of it, but as a child, So that was a handful for sure. Probably gave my parents a lot of gray hairs, but always singing. I started doing plays, everything you can think of, national anthems, dance, piano, all at like 6 years old. And it just kept going from there.
I saw somewhere where you wrote when you were 6 years old that you wanted to be a singer. Talk about that.
I'm so glad you saw that. Yeah, I like drew. I can draw now, but at that age, I think it's 6 or 7. It says when I grow up, I want to be, and I put a singer, and I couldn't even spell it right, but I just like knew that that's what I love to do. I think, going to Craig High School and watching the high school play and being on the edge of my seat the whole time and just watching my parents are like, this is not her normally. So they would literally put on like VHS tapes of like kids sing along, Joni Bartels, all of this like, age appropriate stuff. And I would just soak it in like a sponge. So I think I just knew my calling at a really early age. And I always knew that every decision I made from then on would be just to get to the overall goal of being able to perform and do music full time.
A lot of people don't pursue their childhood dreams. I know when I was a kid, I remember filling out those same papers and it was firefighter, police officer, teacher. I don't do any of that stuff right now. So it's really great that you're able to go through and pursue your dream. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but I want to talk about what Janesville really meant to you growing up.
Janesville, I'm really proud to be from that community. They do so much there. One, there's 12 elementary schools that come together, and every elementary school is named after a president. And I feel like that fact alone just tells you how forward Janesville is in thinking of shaping the youth. Like I'm not getting paid for this. I swear. It's just like YMCA to Girl Scout softball to like you're into sports and you can be in plays. There's community theater. There was 2 different community theaters I was a part of. There just was so many things to be a part of and lots of community events. And I definitely kept very, very busy trying it all, from every single sport there was to music related stuff. So and just the fact, like I grew up right next to when Kennedy Elementary School was built. right in Janesville. And we had this neighborhood of kids that were all around the same age. And all we did was play outside. Like, whether it was hide and go seek tag or flashlight tag or kick the can, whatever we called it at the time, it was just something outside, riding around on our big wheels, making fake ice cream with snow. I mean, it's just, I swear I had one of the best childhoods. And I had a little, I have a little sister, and her and I were always playing with the neighbor kids.
Small town Wisconsin, you gotta have that all over.
It
So
is
yeah,
so much.
yeah. So you spent a lot of your time in Janesville, but you also moved up to De Pere for high school. What was into the move there, and can you talk about the De Pere area?
Okay. So this is always funny to explain to people. Like, I lived in Janesville and moved up to De Pere. My dad got a job opportunity. So I found out within like 2 months before of us leaving. And I was 13. I was in seventh grade. It was a very weird time to tell my friends that I'm moving. And at the time, because I did a lot of like voice impressions and funny things. They thought I was joking. They're like, okay, you're taking this too far. Like, you're not moving. And I was like, no, I'm moving to this place. We ended up choosing De Pere because I knew one individual up there. And anyone who knows those two cities would know, like, in Janesville, it was cool to have a trampoline, and in De Pere, they had like freaking cottages and tubing and boats and so many things. And so it was definitely a culture shock, and they were very much oriented around sports. So at the time, I had only played Girl Scout softball. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to be a runner. Like, now I'm a runner, like, what, that's my thing, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
track and cross country. And so I moved kind of into that because that was my like sport. Volleyball definitely did not work out in De Pere. But yeah, so it was a very big difference. And I remember being very nervous, and I was quiet for all of 2 weeks. And in hindsight, at the time, I was so sad. I wanted to go to Craig so bad. And when we moved to De Pere, and now looking back, I'm like really thankful. It taught me to be true to myself, and no matter what environment you're in. And as much as how different the two cities are, Wisconsin people are all the same. We talk about sports and we regurgitate what we heard on the TV of about whatever games coming on, and just back and forth. And I love it. I love it. It makes me, even just talking about this right now, it makes me miss home. But I'm going up there in November. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was shocking. And I just kind of found my footing definitely in running and just staying involved and doing plays. And yeah.
Yeah. It's great that you have that experience of moving at, that's a tough age to move, like you said. But you moved away, you found success up there. And then later on in life, you ended up making a big change, moving to Nashville. So, having all those big changes in your life, that might have actually prepared you a little bit for your move to Nashville.
It totally did. And that many more people because of
Mhm.
moving, so as scary as it was like making more lifelong friends.
Absolutely. So after high school, you went to Edgewood College. So did I. I really
Yay.
enjoyed my time there. Small school in Madison. What went into the decision to go to Edgewood?
I loved the location, and I loved the size, and I loved the campus is beautiful. It definitely felt like a small community. I knew that I was going to be able to raise my hand and participate in classes, which is something that I like, that humanization of it as part of learning. I like being an active learner. So of course, like UW it was just off the table for me. I knew that I wanted to get a business degree and be able to talk to people and do music. So I really looked at Edgewood as having the best of both, a small private school being in the heart of Madison. And oftentimes I did take the bus downtown and went to college library and hung out with people that I knew that went to Madison. But also, when I wanted to like focus on my studies and have that small community, I could be right in Edgewood's campus. And as you know, I practically like lived down in the cab room and got really involved in the campus activities board and all the student leadership stuff, which is how we met. And so I loved Edgewood for that reason. And I still talk to like girls that I met in college. That's like my core group of friends.
Yeah, Edgewood for me, I'm very similar to you. I don't know if I would have succeeded in a big lecture hall. I needed to have that,
Right.
close relationship, small classes. I think the biggest class I ever had was like 40 students.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect environment for me too. So
Absolutely. Literally, like the dean of business will still email me to my personal email and we'll chat back and forth. Like he'll send me a book that I might be interested in or what. And that's not heard of. I've met old professors. I've met them across town when I was in town for like lunch. And you would definitely not get that at a bigger campus. So it definitely felt like home. I spent my summers there ever since I moved in and went to Edgewood. I spent every summer in Madison. So it really became my home pretty much every dorm.
yeah. So you mentioned the business school. What did you major in, and why did you choose that?
I majored in business with marketing emphasis. To me, I find marketing, it's a whole beast. I mean, you can continue to study it for your entire life, especially with all of the changes in the analytics and social media. But I just find that and the way people's brains work and how you market to them very, very interesting. And I feel like no matter what type of business, whether it's a flower shop, a Wisco Legacy podcast, your music, it's all like small business related, and you can't succeed unless you get the word out. And it's like, that's just as important than how you run the business. I also did think about like majoring, I was really into like processes and how businesses worked. But I was like, all right, that's the nerd in me. I need to just like keep it broad, keep it so I can utilize this and no matter what business I put together.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about all the decisions that you try to make in life were leading you to where you're at right now. And majoring in marketing is definitely a big factor in that. Your social media, your website is top notch. You're doing a lot of great stuff out there. So
Thank you so much.
I'm sure some of the things that you learned at Edgewood have definitely helped build that foundation.
I would say tremendously. Like I have had people that I've met even in Nashville be like, "Oh, I've heard I've heard your name before," and I was like, "What? Where?" And they literally said on social media or something, So that means I'm doing that part right.
Yeah. So you spent some time in the corporate world after college. You definitely you were still singing. You created a band, Thirsty Jones. We can talk a little bit about that too. So you're doing that. You were working. You talk about that balance after college.
Oh my gosh, I felt like it was a lot. That was a time where I was I took actually a year and a half off of music. And when I say off, that means I was only performing like twice a month, which is not a lot to me whatsoever. And I was actually performing during that time with an artist in the Madison area called Michael Alexander and Big Whiskey. And whenever he did acoustic shows, he was having me come along and like play and sing some of my songs and do harmonies with him. So I wasn't taking like a hiatus. I just felt like it wasn't a focal point. I was really just learning about sales, like getting on the phone, handling objections, and worked for a company called JT Packard, which eventually rolled into ABB. And then, I mean, I do not regret having a corporate job. I learned so much, not only about sales in general and like what I learned in school and putting that to use, but then each individual in different departments, how they wanted to be talked to and how the flow of everything happens. And I found that stuff so interesting. I did, however, conclude we as humans make a lot of forms that don't need to necessarily exist, but I did enjoy my time in the corporate world. It just was, as much as the commission checks came in, it didn't feel as gratifying when a new sale happened or a new contract was signed. And I knew that I needed to do that job for myself as growth, but also to prove to my parents, like, hey guys, I can do this. It's just not what my heart is telling me where I need to be.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't filling your bucket. I mean,
right.
It sounds like it was a really great experience. You learned a lot. There's probably some lessons you learned in there that you are still kind of utilizing today, but
Absolutely.
It just wasn't filling your bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about social media and your website and stuff. Can you talk about the importance of social media for musicians and kind of that emphasis you put on that?
So social media right now, like I was just out in Montana, which is like, why would you go to Montana? I wanted to celebrate my birthday out there. And so I did shows and meeting those people. If I didn't have social media or Instagram or even Facebook, there'd be no way for me to connect with them on that level. I'm obviously not going to give everybody my personal number. That's not, I mean, I have even like a separate number on top of that. So it's just, it's a way for me to communicate with people back and forth. People have already followed up, even just from coming back from Montana 2 days ago and asked, like, can you send me links? Like, I want to hear more. And I have little cards that I give out where they can scan it right there and get to all my links. And so I really do utilize social media every day, like practically all day throughout the day, and just messaging people back and keeping in touch. Like I messaged you right before we got on here, and I had messaged a ton of people in the Green Bay area today because we're going to be coming up there in November, right before I'm opening for Randy Houser and the Dells. So we're going to make a stop in Green Bay. And I was just messaging people from high school, from big brothers, big sisters, from all different walks of life, and being like, hey, it's been forever since I've been to your area. Like, I would love for you to come out. I'm letting you know in advance so you can line up a babysitter or make it a date night, but just come on out. I would love to see you. And without that, how would I be able to message everybody without social media? There's going to be no way.
Yeah, you're making great connections and you're putting great content out there. So that's definitely helpful. So I want to transition a little bit to the road to Nashville. You started singing at 6 years old, probably a little bit younger than that. When did you really feel like you started singing and writing songs?
Oh, geez. Okay. So when I was 11, we went to Nashville for the first time. In that trip, it was an insane trip. Not very many people. I actually haven't talked about this in interviews, that first trip, but I met with Diamond Rio's manager. I met Sarah Evans' manager. I went and saw Sarah Evans in concert and got to see her afterwards. I met Vince Gill on the soccer field, gave him my CD. I got a CD then. At the time, I went under Kirstie Lee, and that's still out there somewhere. I've tried to take most of it down, but I still have those gems. And it was just a great first trip. And even before I was 11, I just knew that was the path. That's eventually we're going to be moving to Nashville. So right around that time, I think it was a year later, we started looking at magnet middle schools that were music focused. But in Tennessee, the schools were not up to date yet. So they still had chalkboards, and at the time we were all transitioning to smart boards. So we're like, maybe this isn't the right time yet. And so even conversations about Nashville were happening then. I started making more frequent trips when I was 15. I started songwriting, dabbling in it before, but then with mentors when I was 12. And then I started doing trips to Nashville when I was 15 and writing with people, and just on top of it with mentors, playing writers rounds, and just getting my feet kind of into the city, figuring out how it worked out. So Nashville was always going to be a destination. It was always going to be home for me. I just wanted it to be the right timing. I didn't want to come to Nashville and still have some growing up to do, still having like just I frankly, I mean, we're as Wisconsinites, we are very close to our family. I think family is just so important when you're from Wisconsin. And so I didn't want to move away yet. I wasn't ready. I needed to like almost have the band. You mentioned Thirsty Jones. I was in other bands. I was in Country Twist. And then after that, I was in Crosstown Drive, which is still rocking and rolling in the Madison area. That band was named after because I was driving from Verona to some prairie, like all the way across town, and I would get to rehearsal and I would complain about the drive. And so they're like, we ended up naming the band Crosstown Drive. It was super, super funny, and they're still rocking and rolling. And then I felt like I had to create my own thing, like prove to myself that with me having all the reins and like booking the shows and choosing the music and finding my voice and figuring out what I liked to cover and what my sound was and writing for the record, I like needed that time to prepare to like be like, okay, now it's time. It's time to just put all the focus on being an artist and singing my own songs and move to Nashville to put this record together. So that was really, I felt like it was the right time for me to come to town and give it 110%.
Yeah, I feel like you did it the right way. You built your brand here in Wisconsin. You've got a lot of great followers here, and then you transition over to Nashville.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think, like I just played Country in the Berg in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and having like representing not only like females or women of country, but representing my home state in that lineup with like Billy Currington, Drake White, Kit Moore, Easton Corbin, and Frankie Ballard. I met the individual who, way before he even thought about making that festival happen, I met him years ago. So it's just really cool that opportunities have come because of seeds that were planted many, many years ago.
Yeah. Networking and meeting people is a huge part of that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So what was the biggest deciding factor in you hitting the road and heading to Nashville full time?
So with the band Thirsty Jones, we were essentially like one of 5 or 6 bands that kind of played all the festivals. And it was like coming up on, capping off 3 years. And it was so much fun. The show, we dove into like blues, we dove into rock. We did a lot of just outside of the box stuff, and yet people were digging it. And then we did like 12 to 14 originals in any given night. And so I slowly was transitioning, instead of just Thirsty Jones, saying Kirstie Kraus and Thirsty Jones, kind of like Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, if you will, like slowly being like, hey, these are my songs that we're singing. Like, this is, the band didn't write them. Like, I wrote them for the band to play. And so it was very calculated after a long time. But when it got to that point where I was like, all right, this next summer is going to look like the same festivals, just different beer tents. Like I'm having a blast, but I'm ready to conquer the next thing. I proved to myself that in a couple of years, I can be one of the bands that play all the festivals, and that's amazing. And I was like super proud of myself, but I was like, okay, now it's time though to like conquer Music City and like do my artist thing and really focus as a songwriter and having that be another avenue to make music and to get paid making music. But yeah, I just knew that it was time. It was time to take over the next step.
We'll move on to the next challenge.
Yes, it's this industry is a challenge. It's never ending, but I love that about it.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the grind of Nashville? You hear a lot of artists move there. Some make it, some don't. Some grind out for years before they get a big break. Can you talk about the grind?
Yeah, it is. it is very much a grind. A lot of people say it's a 10-year town. I believe that people can do it in less. I've seen a lot of people that, come to Nashville and maybe they're just in the bars a lot. They're not necessarily networking in the right places, right? They're still have that time to grow up. I got that part of my life out already, like even, early college, maybe before. But I was like ready to not do that and just be doing music. And when you do have an alcoholic beverage, it does affect your throat. I'm sure you felt the next morning where like maybe feels differently when you're speaking. And so imagine that for a singer who literally sings every day, at least an hour, it's not very comfortable. So I really, in like the Thirsty Jones time, I stopped drinking. But Nashville is your net, like just taking names, putting them in spreadsheets, emails, touches, lots of, if you're reaching out, be like, hey, I'm Kirstie, I would love to be on your podcast. Or, hey, I saw my friend Samantha is on this, like, please consider me. Here's my EPK. So much of that. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so it really is a sales job. It really is, I called a bunch of people today. I'm working on booking for Florida, and we as artists wear many hats. And so not only do we need to be good at the stage performance part, but the sales part and the people part, and just being out there. So I would say if you're focused and doing all the right things, sometimes people move to Nashville and they don't maybe know what their sound is yet, or they've never been on stage with a band. So I think there's certain ways when you come in with experience to like kind of fast track. And I'm gonna because I'm so excited about this, I'm gonna say a shameless plug, but right now I have Bird is up for Song of the Year for the Women of Country, and also Thirsty is up for Music Video of the Year for Women of Country. So I'm voting myself every day, 3 times voting, asking, to vote. And it's just I think if you go after it with 110%, you can knock down doors. Like today, I was just talking with the Old Red about figuring out dates, when to play. And it's just, that's a really cool regarded venue in town. And just trying to figure out what the next move is, the next showcase, the next shows, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not a 9-to-5 job whatsoever.
It's way more than that.
Yeah. You're constantly doing behind the scenes stuff that people never see. And that's what's getting you more opportunities and all that, and getting nominated for awards. I think you undersold your award nominations a little bit. I will put a plug in here for you too. So the 2 awards that you're nominated for Women of Country, there's some pretty big name artists you're up against.
Yes.
I saw some Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood, Carly Pierce. What's it like to see your name next to that?
Oh, I don't even know. It definitely is a moment where it puts me in a pause for a second and is like, okay, what is life? Way cool. This is recognition for music that I feel that's on this upcoming, I put out singles, it's on this upcoming record, but I really did put my own sound into this. So when you hear it, it's not like, okay, this is a country song. It pushes the box. It really does. And because this is my first resume essentially in town, my first piece of people to listen to, I wanted to do it that way. I wanted to put out my own music. I really highly respect Cam and Casey Musgraves for doing it that way and sticking to their own sound. And I feel like whatever the next record is going to sound like, or after, this is a stamp of what I think is cool as far as music sounding, and the fact that it's getting recognized is like it feels even better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just in the box of the cookie cutter, this is country music. It's like my own brand.
So you've played some really iconic venues down in Nashville. You got Tootsie's, Bluebird, the Listening Room. What's it like to step up to those stages?
I remember being nervous. Like, I don't think, there are certain venues that you don't get nervous, but if you're doing the right shows, you'd always get a little like anxious, excited, as if we talked about running. So like as if the gun's about to go off and you're about to start the race. Like I get really, really like anxious, like excited. And then everything is kind of just like subconsciously running through my mind about how the show is going to go. You do a lot of like visualization. So, yeah, I mean, the Bluebird was a dream. To say that I played the Bluebird and have so many iconic people in that small space, and like have that be a check off the bucket list. I'm a huge bucket list person. That was an amazing night. And I remember calling my parents. And when I found out I was going to be playing in April of, is it 2019, right before everything happened, I called them up. And I was like, hey, I'm going to play the Bluebird. And they're like, what date? I was like, April. And I told them the date. And they're like, okay, we'll be there. Like that was no questions. They just knew what an honor it was. And they were going to do whatever they needed to do to be there. And that's so cool. Yeah. And that listening room, like when the Bluebird was shut down, it just opened back up. But when that was shut down, I mean, the Carly Pierces of the world, we were all fighting to play the same place. So the fact that I got to play there 4 times during this last like year has been, it's an honor. It's an honor every time. Yeah.
For sure. The Bluebird, if I'm not mistaken, it sells out immediately every single day.
It's so hard.
It's kind of a lottery system in a way to get in there.
You have to call, like you call and it's busy and you call again and you call again, and that's all morning until you get through. And then when you get through, they may have already have sold the other tickets on the other phone calls. It's very crazy how they do that. Or you stand in line for 6 hours just to get in. So I've been to the Bluebird as a listener for one of my co-writers, Joe Sly, who's actually up in the Green Bay area. He plays Joe Sly and the Smooth Operators and plays Mile of Music and all those festivals up there. He used to live in Nashville, and long story short, he's one of my favorite co-writers. And I met him when I was like 15 at the NSAI chapter up in Green Bay, which is the Nashville Songwriters Association International. And so I was a part of that when I was 15 and met him. And just throughout the years, we've been writing together. So he asked me to be a guest and watch him perform at the Bluebird. And that was really, really cool.
Well, I bet to see someone up on there, and then for you to get that opportunity too, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
So you've been in Nashville for 4 years now, is that correct?
Yes, my anniversary, because we celebrate that down here, is it was October 3rd. So we just crossed over 4 years of being here full time.
Yeah. Can you talk about the evolution you've had through that time? First coming to town, you probably weren't playing as much as you wanted to. It took some time to make those connections even more. And now it seems like you're playing all over the place and getting a lot of opportunities on both the singing and songwriting side of things.
So at the time when I was moving, I really needed a break. I had just finished like 52 dates in a span of 3 months. So it averages out to like 5 or 6 shows a week. And I was doing full band stuff and acoustic stuff and just primarily singing I was the primary singer. So when I came to Nashville, I was like ready to take a break on the vocals and give it a good healing, like a rest up. But at the same time, I was launching a Kickstarter for the record. And I was also demoing everything out, like figuring out what songs would be on the record, what the sound would be like. And we spent a lot of time with that. It was, I will say, give yourself grace anytime you're moving far away from your family. Cause it was, I definitely needed time to like come into the space here and like love Nashville. I loved Nashville and it was my working city, but then moving here, it needed to be also my like my personal city, like the city that I go to the park sometimes, and to think about it like that, which I still am always working towards taking time, like any sort of downtime, but loving Nashville in that way too, and exploring the city and volunteering and figuring out, what the life outside of the industry was like. But it was definitely knocked me on my ass, and I was having Cheerios and watching Netflix and having moments where I was like, oh my God, I just made a huge step towards my dreams. So my internal temperature was like, of where it's set on what I deserve towards my dreams. It was like going crazy. So I actually wrote a song about it. It's called Self-Sabotage, and I've performed it a lot out in the city and in town. And some people have recognized me based on that song, which is crazy, but it was just about it was about that. It was about adjusting to that. And we did make runs. We started making, we went out to Colorado, played a theater, and went up to Pennsylvania and played, but it was very few and far in between. It wasn't as many shows right away. It wasn't as many writers rounds. And now I feel like every day it's like, it is something. So I wasn't going as full steam. And I think what I do need to make sure to say is like, give yourself grace, give yourself that time to adjust, that you're not by family, that you're not like, I didn't think it would affect me as much as it did, but it really did. Not enough for me to move home. Like I knew I was going to be here. There was definitely a period where I was like, what? And like the bar is here and that's the bar. Like I need to figure out how to get there, and get better and focus on what I'm doing so I can be a player in this community. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge leap of faith to head down there. And there's a lot of unknowns, I'm sure, going down there, but you had some connections, so that helped. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you've seemed to be getting more opportunities throughout the years. So I'm sure it's only going to grow from there. Let's see. You talk about your songwriting process. I know you probably do some collaborative work. You do some solo work. Do you prefer one or the other? Just kind of talk about that songwriting process.
Okay. Preference. I don't know. It's hard. Like, obviously it feels really good when you're just sitting and like spitting out a song, and you put on your recorder on your phone and you just are singing practically in time a song. I feel like I've worked that muscle so much that like these are all song ideas, work tapes. I think they said there was 780 some on here, and I've had this phone for a year. So it's just lots of writing. And I feel like anytime I get an idea, I write it down in Google Docs. I'm very calculated like that. And then I will think, I have a core of people that I love to write with for me. And I know I can be like, okay, this is a great idea. I'm going to finish it myself. Or this is a great idea. I'm going to get Diane on this. Or I'm going to get Joe on this. So then I'll write the title of the song or what it's about, and I'll do a dash and put their name. So the next time I'm with them, I'll bring up song ideas essentially and be like, what speaks to us? And what's so cool is that the day we get into a writing room with other people, it's literally, I mean, you could have you could have 5 ideas that you are bringing, but it's how you guys are both feeling that day. Like, you don't want to write something against your emotions. That would be a waste of 3 hours or 2 hours. So it's all up in the air as far as what happens in the writing room that day. I'm happy you mentioned for other people, because in this last year, I've started writing for other artists, and now I have like Canadian artists that are reaching out to me so that when they come into town, they want me to write with them or for them. And I'm like, what?
Another what is life moment.
Yeah, she's only in town for 7 days. Like, she wants me to write with her for her. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's crazy. That's stuff I would dreamed about. And the fact that it's just kind of organically happened. I don't know if the people that I have written with have just started performing the songs around town or whatever, but I feel like every time I write with an artist, they leave happy. So, and they like the song, and I kind of put my stamp on it. But at the same time, I figure out what makes them tick and what they want to write about and their thing. And we kind of have a conversation, and then I go, okay. And then I just type vigorously, and then they seem to dig it. So I've really enjoyed that. Like almost like not only am I pleased that a song happened and it was born, but to see them pleased makes me really happy. But of course, there's nothing like pouring your heart out in a song that you're just maybe not even ever going to see the light of day, but on a piece of paper. So yeah, the process as far as for me is very like, I'm very lyric driven person. I will hear the lyrics and the melody at the same time. And then I will often sing them to a guitarist and have them figure out what chords will fit into my melody.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to go about writing a song. I have no idea about that process, but it's interesting to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, I had it's very funny because I was trying to explain to someone recently. They messaged me on Facebook and they said they were tasked to write a song, and they literally came to me to ask for advice on how to do it. And so it was funny, like describing as like left brain as humanly possible how to write a song when really you're using your right brain. But I was trying to describe it in left brain terms, and they came back and messaged me and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Thank you so much. And I was like, okay, let me know how it goes. Let me know if you need any help. But it was cool that they thought of me to ask, like very randomly. I think it was like my gym TA from high school.
Well,
yeah.
Again, those connections coming all coming back to connections.
It.
Yeah. So again, you've always dreamed of being an artist, living in Nashville. What is it really like to be living your childhood dream?
Like I said, there's moments where I'm trying not to get, like, I don't want to get emotional, but there's moments where I was like, what is life? Like, this is awesome. I can't believe this is my life. Like, and it happens a lot when I'm explaining it to people who aren't in the industry or who ask questions, and they maybe find it fascinating that I, travel on the road a lot, essentially like a glorified truck driver that sets up your stuff and sings, like, it's very surreal. Like I played a festival here in Tennessee called Lynchburg Music Fest, and it's the biggest music festival close to Nashville. And they gave me, like, their sponsor was Jack Daniels, because Jack Daniels is in Lynchburg. And so they gave me this top of the barrel, and it's engraved, and has my name on it. And it's just giant wooden barrel. And we had to hold it up, to take a picture. And when I'm going through the motions and being, in like just on and talking to people, like it doesn't hit me until I like go home and I'm like, I got to find a place for this. Then it's like, wait, what? This is so cool. Like, this is my life right now. Are you kidding? Like I'm finding a place for things. I don't know. I know that's a stupid example, but I feel like there's moments where it will hit me, and it will be like, what? You're like going to be a part of a songwriters festival. Like you're in the lineup. What? Like, that's crazy. And so it really does make me super happy inside. It lights my whole entire being up, and just gives me more fuel to continue to pave my own way, like through life. And I hope one day I can be like Sheryl Crow, where it's just like song after song after song and so much to listen to, because I feel like music is really uplifting, and it can just be so powerful. So I just want to be able to, that's my thing to share. So I just need to continue to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. With your work ethic, I feel like you're going to get there.
No, there's no stopping. I'm a lifer. That's what I always say. I'm a lifer. I'm all in for the end game. So as much as I can, I try to only go downtown a certain amount of times a week when I'm in town to do the 4-hour shows. One, I got to pay rent, but at the same time, I need to protect my time and what I'm doing, and making sure that I'm loving everything that I'm doing, because never do I want to get in a space where it's not something that I love. Like it always needs to be something that I love, and I want to protect that. So if that means I say no to a show, it's just not the right thing for my heart. But I definitely just see this as the long game.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone who wants to pursue their dream? It doesn't have to be, we don't have to talk about a singer moving to Nashville, but everybody has a dream. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that would want to pursue their dream?
So this record is called Yes You Can. I mean, it was a feat it's a big project, especially being such a perfectionist. It's just be okay with whatever space you're starting, and just put it into habit, put it into motion, just do little things every day towards it. Whether you need like visuals, put that in your car so you're seeing that every day, and it just make it so it becomes a huge part of your life. Because I remember when it was hard for me to tell people that I was a songwriter. Like I felt weird about, and I feel like everybody goes through that phase where they're like, I'm a voiceover artist or whatever. I run a podcast. There's a
Mhm.
part where you're like, do I tell people? You tell every single person that you meet what you're trying to do, what your goals are, what space you're in. Like, just own it and go after it with your whole heart.
That's great advice. Thanks. What goals do you have for the future? You hoping to play the Opry, the Ryman, be on CMT? What are some of your big goals?
I do see CMT as a very close future. I have about 5 contacts there. And so just looking to get them the music video enough in advance and all the things for them to take that on to CMT. I would love to be named the next Women of Country class of whatever year and play the Opry all the time. A huge goal of mine is to also get over to the UK, Germany and Ireland and everywhere in the UK, and tour. I've made a lot of connections over there, especially during the pandemic. So to see that even be like doable, and have people that have reached out and said we can stay there, and venues that I know about and other artists that I can play shows with. I mean, I'm like, yes, I want to go to the UK. Let's make that happen. So stuff like that. I want to put out more records and continue to write. I would love to be able to see a #1 under my belt, whether it's me or somebody else that has recorded my song. And yeah, I'm just excited for it all. Getting a song on a movie, I could literally list a ton of things, but obviously playing the Opry would be like, I don't know if I'd cry the whole time or actually be able to sing. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I've seen 2 or 3 shows there, and just walking in, it gives you chills. So I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine stepping on that stage, stepping in the inner circle there.
Absolutely. I was just at the Ryman too. A couple months ago, we celebrated 10 years of Whiskey Jam being happening, and literally Whiskey Jam sold out the Ryman without a lineup. That is the only brand that's going to be able to sell out the Ryman without a list of artists that are performing. And it was like every single artist came out, like all the big names came out and played their like one song. And it was just the coolest night. They even had Randy Travis sing like one little note. But it was, yeah, so just to be a part of this community is really, really special. And like Nashville's the heart of it. It really, really is. If you want to do what I'm doing, Music City is where you got to be.
Yeah. So how can our listeners support you?
Oh, geez. That was so I still say you guys. I will not say y'all because I'm from Wisconsin and a Scotty girl through and through. I would love for you guys to support your home state girl and literally jam the songs, add them to playlists, tell people about them. Word of mouth is the best, especially for any independent artist. She's like, hey, I know this girl from Wisconsin. You should check out her music, or you should come and see her at a show. And maybe then I'll turn them into a new thirsty fan. But yeah, just word of mouth that you know this girl from Wisconsin that's trying to do her thing in Nashville would be a super big help.
And you're in Wisconsin a lot. You come back and perform a lot. So
I am.
Yeah.
I also, because we're on the Wisco Legacy podcast, which I love because we are all very proud. I actually was just at a place called Doghouse watching the Packer game with one Scotty that lives here, and then another guy, Brady Lee, who lives up in Wisconsin, does the Milwaukee area. He was visiting. So he reached out to me. We were watching the Packer game together. And I posted on the Facebook group. You probably don't know this, but I have a Facebook group in Nashville called Wisco Nashies. And it's people that are from Wisconsin that live in Nashville. And we just like chat and tell each other where we're watching the game and whatever. Like, it's just a little Facebook group for us to keep in contact. But I was also going to say, I have performed at the official Badger tailgate before everything went down with the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to coming back for that and eventually releasing my Scotty song. So we'll look for that, you guys.
That's awesome. I'm super excited for that. I'm really excited about this album. One thing that I feel like the music in general, people are gravitating more towards singles and quick hitting stuff. So it's exciting that you're putting your whole heart into an album. Do you have a date yet you're launching that, or still to be determined?
So there are dates in the works. I'm in the middle of switching the PR arm of the company, which we operate. It used to be called Thirsty Jones LLC. Now it's Kraus House and Entertainment LLC. So we are switching that position, and that's a very vital position for promotion. So that no dates that I can discuss yet, but I'm really pumped. It's 11 songs. If you buy the physical copy, which is available on my website right now, it has 2 bonus tracks, which are singles I already put out, Gotta Do and Delusional. And yeah, my latest single, Bird, is on there and all the things, but this is my baby. So if you want to get it to your house, you can just order it on the website.
So we have some rapid fire questions we ask all our guests here about Wisconsin. So first thing that comes to mind, I got 3 of them here for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite restaurant in Wisconsin?
Mickey's Dairy Bar.
Mickey's.
I miss it. So I'm gonna, were they able to reopen?
I'm not sure.
I need to look at that because that brings back memories for sure.
Oh yeah, just down the road from Edgewood by Camp Randall. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the corner where everything's happening.
This one might be a tough one for you because you do go to a lot of events here in Wisconsin and you perform at some. What's your favorite event in Wisconsin?
I mean, first thing that came to mind, so I'm not gonna lie, Beer, Bacon, and Cheese Fest in New Glarus was pretty awesome. Like, beer, bacon, and cheese. I don't feel like I have to say much more. Like, obviously there was brats available there, but like beer, bacon, cheese. That's it.
That's Wisconsin right there.
Yep.
In a nutshell. Yep. Yeah.
I literally heard that when I heard about the festival, I was like, I must play that. I must play that because of the title.
Well, we'll have to get you down to Cheese Days in Monroe at some point in time.
Yes.
So we'll work on that.
I need to follow up with them. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list. It really is.
All right.
I love that area. It's so cute.
Awesome. Last rapid fire question. Where's your favorite place to hang out in Wisconsin?
Oh, you just reminded me at the Union, I have the Union is the place, but I just recently was back at Bailey's Run Winery in New Glarus, and a fan gave me earrings that match the chairs to the Memorial Union. And they're like yellow and they match the circle backs of the chairs. And it was just such a simple gift, but meant so much to me because I feel like then when I wear them, whether it's in Florida or anything, they're so bright and they make me so happy. They make me feel close to home. So that is one of the best places to play on any good old summer night, listening to music, getting a picture, bringing your own snacks, whatever. Lots of memories there.
Yeah, you can't beat it. All right. Last question I ask every guest here. When all is said and done, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
This is such a great question. It is really, really extremely important to me to leave a legacy that essentially tells people you can do whatever you set your mind to. And a lot of my music is very positive. It's very about that, just written in different ways. But I think there's so many people out there that are afraid to pursue their passion, the passion that was given to them in their heart, and maybe just not aware that the longing has been planted there for them to live it, to enjoy this time on the planet. So that's really important for me, just to be essentially an example to tell people that just whatever you want to do, like go after it. And I literally, after shows, when I see little girls come to the merch booth and I get to take pictures and talk to them, I look them straight in the eye and tell them, remember, you can do anything that you want to do or set your mind to. And I think that's a really special moment.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've put a lot of heart and soul into your career, and I wish you all the best. And I feel like you're just getting started. But you're still you're going to move forward and do a lot of things, accomplish a lot. I appreciate the time today, Kirstie, and thanks for coming on Wisco Legacy.
Oh, thank you so much. When that day comes and I'm playing the Opry, you better send me a message and say congratulations, because I'm going to make sure that happens. And I can't even express gratitude enough. The fact that we got to talk today and the podcast today was from my home state. Like I just really, really appreciate it. And thank you for having me, Corey.